Welcome to episode 3 of First Ones to Die, a horror podcast. I'm Tierney.
And I'm Wolfgang.
We love horror and talking about horror. And it's March. That's Irish month, baby.
Month of green and mint.
Ireland has had skin in the horror game from the very beginning, with the first 2 vampire novels, Carmilla by Sheridan Le Fanu, which is always forgotten, and Dracula by Bram Stoker, which is not, both being native to the island. Even other famous classic Irish authors like Yeats and James Joyce dipped their pens in the horror genre. I've always enjoyed reading classic epics like the Epic of Gilgamesh and the Iliad for their genre spanning, including horror, and the Tan is no exception. But for all that Ireland has always had a hand in horror literature and influenced the genre as a whole because of that, its role in horror cinema only seems to have recently really taken off. So we decided to look at 15 different Irish horror movies spanning from 2004 to 2021 to really get a feel for what Fangoria has called éire horror in response to terms like J-horror. I really feel like you don't need to do that. Just call it Irish horror.
Yeah, it's already, Irish is already such a punchy word.
I know. Irish filmmaker Kate Dolan, the writer and director of You Are Not My Mother, which is one of the films that we looked at, in an interview with Letterboxd about the recent influx of Irish horror movies drawing from Irish mythology, said, "Our film industry is quite young. We were colonized for so long, and then we were in a theocracy of Irish Catholic guilt. They would ban movies, and our exposure to horror was less than you find in other countries. Now maybe you're seeing a surge of Irish horror because we're not under the Catholic Church's thumb anymore. You can make movies about monsters with blood and guts. You're not going to get banned," which I liked.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, very concise, yeah.
And also, I'm sure the video nasty era also affected Ireland.
Oh, 100%. So the movies that we looked at were Dead Meat from 2004, Isolation from 2005, Stitches from 2012, Grabbers from 2012, Citadel from 2012, big year for Irish horror, The Canal from 2014, The Hallow from 2015, The Cured from 2017, The Lodgers from 2017, The Devil's Doorway from 2018, The Hole in the Ground 2019, Vivarium 2019, Boys from County Hell from 2020, Let the Wrong One In 2021, and You Are Not My Mother, also in 2021. This is not a spoiler-free episode. This is a spoiler-heavy episode. We're going to talk about all the shit that goes down in these films. So go watch them if you want. If you don't care, go ahead and listen, because we'll just regurgitate what happens anyway.
We won't give a play-by-play, but you will know what happened.
That's too long. 15 pounds, girl.
Hell no.
Look them up on Wikipedia if you want to know that bad. For extra credit, I also looked at other films that were by some of the same directors, just to get kind of a feel of their work, but Wolfgang didn't. To be fair, it was a lot of movies on this list.
That's a lot of
It was a lot of movies on this list. I don't blame you.
And I do want to say, this is a very obviously film-heavy episode. You are a big film person specifically.
I am.
And for me, I think there's a difference between something that I put on in the background, like when I knit, or something that I sit down to watch.
Yeah.
And so I'd been working a lot in February, and when I would get done or be at the end of a day or on a day off, I would want to sit down and knit. And I was not as disciplined as I should have been too.
Well, you also worked a lot. I mean, that's true.
Yeah.
While I did watch most of these on overnights while I was working, I did also have 20 days off last month. That can't be overstated.
And I didn't even get any fun layovers because they were all short rests.
Sucks, bro. Sucks to suck.
How many movies was it in total?
15, brother.
Oh,
for me, it was 18.
Wow.
No, it was 19. But I don't count Let Us
Pray. 20. No, 11.
No,
21.
It was 19, but I'm not counting Let Us Pray because that was mostly Scottish.
Wrong island.
Wrong island. Whoops. My bad. I promise I don't think they're the same. So first up, we have Vivarium from 2019 by Lorcan Finnegan. I am not going in order of production. I am going in order of what I wrote down. So,
and also for a lot of these, I think that there's going to be some that we have a lot to talk about and some that we'll glance 100%. Over. Vivarium, I think we're going to have a lot. We're going to have a lot to
discuss. Dead Meat, not so much.
We'll get to that one.
We'll get to that one.
We'll skim that one when we get to that.
That one's number 2. No, it's number 3. Anyway, Vivarium from 2019 by Lorcan Finnegan. A young couple gets trapped in a mysterious neighborhood of identical houses in this mind-bending film. All of these summaries are the summaries from IMDb. Some are wordier than others. This one, just a sentence.
I mean, there's not much else to the plot.
So, a young couple gets trapped in a mysterious neighborhood of identical houses. That sure does happen.
Sure does. And it gets to it real quick.
It does. This is my review. They should have loved that little boy. Good chemistry, both leads very charming. Jesse Eisenberg always bags beautiful women despite having the energy of a nervous little white dog in every role, except for this one in that magician film where he's insufferable. I don't remember the name of that. I never do. I did watch it.
Is it The Prestige?
No. Jesse Eisenberg is not in The Prestige.
I've never seen it. I just know that there's a
award-winning film, The Prestige.
I have never seen it. I just know it's a movie with magicians in it.
No. What are they?
Now You See Me?
Yes. Thank you.
I think of that one as a heist movie.
They're magicians, though. That's the whole point.
I know, but it's not the most
They're supposed to be
thing.
like rock and roll magicians.
Oh,
it's
outlaw magicians.
I know, it's so stupid. I hated that movie. I just saw the sequel recently. Well, I saw like the last 30 minutes of it because it was on a hotel TV. I just flipped it on. Interesting take on the death of individuality and expression that is HOA living. And I like that for the most part, they continued to love each other, though it's clear the idea is that settling down, quote unquote, into mainstream society, i.e. heterosexual marriage, house, kids, is a prison cell turned death sentence. A bit too long and repetitive for me, though I know that's the point, it's just a difference of taste. I also feel bad for baby cuckoo birds. They don't know that they're considered a parasite, they just know that they're here, and they're hungry, and they need to survive, and maybe that songbird loves their big monstrous changeling son. I hope so, anyway. 2.5 stars, later edited to 3 after you talked me into liking it a little bit more.
So I really like this movie.
Yeah, go for it.
And I think a good jumping off point for what I thought of it is that I think it's a much more interesting take on the suburban hell. I don't think that it's a take of, oh, if you follow society's script for, being a cis-het couple, like, oh, you've been tricked, it's actually awful, society lied to you. I think it's more of, like, especially with the theme of the cuckoo bird, that what if someone took your dreams and made it into a nightmare? And I think looking through the film, there's lots of hints that maybe Tom and Gemma really were ready to settle down. They were ready to take that next step. Maybe a surprise pregnancy would have been seen as a blessing, and they never got to have that dream because they got tricked into a hell dimension. So this was the first movie that I watched on the list. And once they were trapped there and the box with the infant showed up, I remember I think I texted Tierney and I was like, finally, some good fucking fairies from a filmmaker. And listen, I truly, truly love that it's always a native Irish person who has interesting takes on modern fairies.
Agree.
And after talking with you, I agree. I don't think it's a purely changeling kind of story, but I think it's a cousin to it.
I agree. I think it's in the same route, but nothing gets replaced.
Yes. They certainly don't have any chance of having their own children now. But, and I remember thinking that seemed like a very specific choice, that the couple that was taken, they don't have their own children yet. Mm-hmm. So they're not going to necessarily fight back as hard.
And they fought back pretty hard.
They did. But if you already know that your child is out there.
Yeah, that's true. The parental instinct or whatever.
or whatever.
I don't know. I have an ant instinct. I think it's probably a little bit different. I mean, I'd die for that kid, but also, she annoys me a lot. So.
And I want to say, I think that, the reaction of, well, what would you do in this situation? The idea of, well, I would just love this boy anyway because they don't necessarily know what they're doing. I think that's a valid response.
Yeah.
But I think that to properly engage with it, you have to accept that, like, you do that knowing you're still just going to die.
Yeah. So we discussed this after Wolfgang first watched it, which we probably shouldn't have.
We did this with a bunch of these.
Yeah. But my issue with this movie is a personal one. It's not anything that's wrong with the movie. I personally have parental issues that mean that if I see parents or parent figures being mean to a child of any sort, I am immediately just kind of like, well, fuck you guys.
Yes.
So, yes, this child is a monster. Yes, they've been hijacked. Yes, that sucks. They're being held prisoner and forced to raise this thing that they don't understand and that scares them. And that sucks. I would just love that little boy. I'm built different. I don't know. You got a free child out of it.
And I think sometimes it helps that we actually do talk about things, whatever, before we actually sit down to really bleed it out for the podcast, is because sometimes you let things marinate. Because like when we talked about, watching it as a queer person, it's very different watching it as a cishet person, I think, than a queer person, because what society demands of cishet people is often unattainable for queer people.
Right. It's literally
like to have
a dream for a lot of us.
Secure housing, to have children.
Right. This is a house they don't have to pay for. They're paying no bills. There's always food on the table. I mean...
But I think that what sets this movie apart is that it does a very good job of still making it applicable, because... Yes, they're given a house, but they have no control over it. It already was pre-decorated for them.
It's an HOA nightmare as well. I mean, it's not a nice...
And they have no like art or any culture that they brought themselves.
Yeah.
The food that they're given has literally no taste. There's a really great scene where they are just sitting in the car that they brought, and they talk about how like the car has a smell.
Yeah.
And it's been so long since they've known anything with a smell. And that's why I think that it's like, what if someone took your dreams and used that to hurt you?
Yeah.
So I think that still does make it very applicable to queer people, because it's like, well, what if, you were given this and you're just like, oh, well, we'll make the most of it. Like after a while. I
told this to my friend that I watched it with as well. The kid, very unsettling. They did a lot to make that kid unsettling. It takes a lot for a child to unsettle me, because I'm immediately endeared to anything that looks cute. And the voice of this child, very unsettling. But I told my friend, I was like, I would just teach him sign language. Don't speak, honey. We speak with our hands, actually. That's the human way.
But again, I wouldn't be allowed to, because the entire point is for the boy to mimic humans enough to blend in. That wouldn't help them blend in. You'd get a note saying, start talking.
I didn't know I'd get a note. We don't know that.
We don't know, but I think there's a very good chance.
I don't know. My favorite review of it, though, that somebody left was, this is an interesting documentary on how real estate agents are raised. Which tickled me. I think it's a really well done film. Even when I had my reservations about, the treatment of the child in that film, I still thought it was really well made.
Yeah.
I mean, the cast, it was a bare bones cast. Bare bones everything, really. It's one location for most of it.
It almost feels like a pandemic film. It's so stripped down. And it came out
right before the pandemic.
Yeah.
So
there was a review I saw that was like, probably not the best movie to watch when everyone's trapped at home.
Yeah, because I think a lot of people didn't see it until 2020, because it came out at like the end of 2019.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was good. Not my favorite, but I liked it.
I do really like it, but I do want to say that if child abuse is particularly triggering, this is not the movie for you. And one of the things that I like about the movie is that you get the sense that it's these alien things are using paternal instinct against you. And so even if you accept the idea that this thing is not, we already know it's not human, but that it's not capable of loving them back. It's not capable of anything. It's just this complete alien thing that's never going to care. And Tom is correct in trying to kill it. The movie still makes sure that you feel like it's wrong.
Yeah.
Like you still feel like he's going too far, locking it in the car, which I don't even think that would have done anything. I think if he would stayed in the car, they would have gone to sleep, and the kid would have been right in front of them.
Yeah.
And they got a little note, don't do that shit again.
Yeah. We don't know, though, because it didn't happen.
We don't know. And I do like the little glimpses we get, though, when Gemma is falling through the other dimensions. And again, that sense of isolation where, like, even though she broke out, she can't comprehend what's going on. Like, she's wrong in these other little vivariums. Mm-hmm. And you see the different kind of reactions that different couples have had, where there's one man who's just killed himself in the bathtub. There's a couple that's clearly just given up on any privacy. and seems to just be ignoring him. I think that is really interesting, and I think it would have been interesting to see what would a boy raised by a couple that was like, well, we'll make the most of it.
Yeah, we'll love this weird kid.
We'll try.
I know. I would have loved that little boy. Freakishness and all. I say, having never been put in that position, very confidently.
And also, this is a film where the writer was really on it, where as soon as you think of something, the characters do too, where, okay, they're going to drive away.
Yes.
Ran out of gas. They're going to walk away.
I commented on that as well.
They're right back there. Going to burn it down. It just builds back up. It
doesn't matter.
And that does such a good job of making you feel helpless. And I really like the point you had that for Gemma, she's a school teacher of small children. Tom is a landscaper.
Yeah, he's like a landscaper, a gardener.
And so for Tom, when he realizes he can dig in the ground and that the soil is wrong, but it's still something he can do, and he can hear creatures down there as he's digging, so that's what he's going to do. And it's something physical. And he's the one that was like trying to burn the house down. He's the one that tries to starve out the boy. He's the one trying to really physically do something. And Gemma's the one who's, I'm going to try and crack this boy. And she's very good at also even manipulating is a strong word, but she knows how to work with children.
Yes.
So she knows how to get information out of him.
There's a type of manipulation with children that is a good thing.
Yes. I don't know what the word would be.
I know. It feels wrong to use the word manipulation because that automatically has negative connotations.
Right.
But yeah, there is a
handle.
There is a psychology behind interacting with children that comes with working with children. So it makes sense that she would have that know-how.
And I feel like another thing for me that helps, because I also do not like child abuse. Controversial opinion.
Oh man.
I think it's bad.
Enemy of the pod, child abuse.
And I also have, there are certain scenes in TV and film that really trigger me that I don't like. This film, I think, thread the needle for me. That's why I really like it. And I think another aspect of that is that the boy can leave at any time.
Yeah.
And
sort of.
Yeah, but
eventually.
They can't.
Like, I don't think he probably could have as an infant,
No, not as an infant, but as soon as, when we see the time skip.
When he starts wandering around by himself.
Yeah. He's not wholly dependent on them. Like, when they wake up, he's already dressed. He already has his hair done. Like, I feel like that also helps to trigger in your mind to understand that, this is not a human child. And trying to treat it like a human child is anthropomorphizing it, which... something that it isn't. And this is only adjacent, but it does remind me of seeing posts online talking about I don't understand how you can have a reptile as a pet. They're not capable of love. Bro, I don't need it to love me. I just need it to be a swag beast.
Yeah.
And it's
me and my swag beast kid.
Yeah, and that's, the thing is, if you with reptiles is that, no, they're not mammals. They don't. Yeah. Function kind of the same way. I think that's, again, why I like the film. I think it did a really good job with that, in addition to having really great cinematography, really great
very
tension, really great performances. My God, when Gemma, after Tom dies, that death.
The death was earned, honestly.
And then when Gemma opens the box and she sees the body bag and she's just screaming, crying.
Yeah, you feel it. It's interesting for me that you say it thread the needle for you, because this is something that objectively I knew about myself. I knew that I was sensitive to the topic of children and the treatment of children and the monsterfication of children and all that sort of stuff that affects me because of my particular history. But it did not thread the needle for me. And it's interesting how sometimes you can watch something and not realize that it's triggering you until after the fact. And it wasn't until talking to you about it that I realized that the reason that I was so uncomfortable the entire film with its portrayal of that was because I was being triggered, but I didn't recognize that. I just thought, I was like, oh, I don't like how they're doing this.
Oh, they're doing it bad.
Yeah, they're doing it bad. I don't like this.
And I want to say, there were points of it where, watching through it, I was very, I was like, I don't know how they're going to do this, because when we first meet the boy, when he's not an infant, but a child wandering around, a elementary school age, his voice is fucked up and freaky, but there's a scene where, he says, I'm a dog, woof, 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 and that fucked up voice, and he's just running around in circles. And there was a part in my head where I was like, okay,
It's just
how are they?
Yes,
Yes, I was like, that's a normal child. How are they going to pay this off?
Yeah.
And I think that they did that really well. And I feel like they use specifically scenes like that where you feel like it's a normal child, as this is that alien thing, like using your parental instincts
and
against
then you have the juxtaposition of him doing something that is just inhuman.
Absolutely inhuman, and not even really responding to the love Gemma shows it.
Well, and we had this discussion as well.
Yeah.
I feel like the love that she showed him, too little, too late.
And I agree with you and see that.
Realistically, how much would that affect you? By the time my mom was being nice to me, she'd already been so shitty. It was just kind of like, well, when's the next shitty thing coming?
How long is this going to last? Yeah.
So, I don't know. But
I do understand what you mean. This is going to sound like the most awful film bro thing. In the context of the film, how they're trying to give you information, I feel like that's, processing that differently than real life.
Yeah, and that's fair. And again, that's why I say it's a me issue. It's a me issue I didn't realize was a me issue. Until someone who wasn't as hypersensitive as me was like, well.
And I want to be very clear. I think the people who are violently child free should not watch this movie because they're too stupid to get this movie.
Yeah, no, this is not about that.
And that's what I get. And what really frustrated me looking at reviews of it is people who just clearly hate children and they don't pick up on the nuances that the film was trying to do.
Yeah.
Where it's like, all right, well, you just don't get it. Don't touch it. You're too stupid.
This isn't for you.
This isn't for you. It's for me.
It's for Wolfgang only.
It's for me, a fag who wants a baby very badly, but would not fucking take that thing.
You wouldn't?
I would at first.
I feel like you would. You have baby fever.
I do have baby fever, but I feel like once you get to the point to where it's, treating it like a human doesn't matter. Treating it like even a pet, it's so alien. And also, I'm dying in this environment.
That's true. The environment is killing you the whole time.
Yeah.
That's a factor.
Yeah. And again, so like, even if you were to love this thing, I feel like there'd be a scene of him zipping up the parent in the body bag and being like, all right, time to go to bed. You were the best mother ever. Mwah. And then dead.
I mean, maybe he'd give you like a really nice death though. You get to go out peacefully in your sleep.
I mean, Gemma, well, she was very injured, but I feel like I feel like it was clear though she was dying because of the environment and she just kind of decided to go.
If you raised this child with love and care,
he'd just decapitate me with an axe when I wasn't looking.
I don't know. We'll never know because it didn't happen.
It didn't, and that's not what the film was trying to show. And even then, like I think good films bring up discussions like this.
Yeah, for sure.
And like I said, even if you knew in your head, engaging with the scenario, you are not getting out of this alive, and you have very strong parental instincts, would you still just love it anyway? Would you just kind of tolerate whatever affection it gave you? Because like there's people who, like we said, who have reptiles and they're just like, I think they're just neat.
There are people with like pet boa constrictors. Those things kill.
Yeah.
Those things kill their owners sometimes.
And they're just like, it's cool.
I think there's people out there that would see this little monster child and just be like, that's dope.
Fucked up. Can you do any other voices?
Yeah, let me see that egg neck. Do the egg neck trick again.
Do you have a frill that I don't know about?
Yeah, you can't get any good TV channels. This is our entertainment.
Literally, that was the thing that I was thinking as well, where it was like, oh God, your only TV is that.
Can't even watch a movie.
There's no books in the house.
There's nothing.
The only book you get is in an alien language you can't read.
Yeah, I would read that though.
I would try, and Gemma does.
Well, she gets freaked out by it. I feel like I would be kind of like, this is cool, actually.
You know what? I would actually ask the boy and be just like, oh, I see this new book you have.
Can you read it to me?
Can you read it to me? Yeah. Oh, that's so cool.
I would take an interest in his interests.
Yeah.
It's good to know about your kids' hobbies. I can tell you all of Margaret's favorite fucking shows. Even the annoying ones.
Even the annoying
ones.
Even the ones you wish had never been made.
Most of them, except Bluey. Bluey, A+.
Solid. And again, as I'm saying that as someone who is not in that scenario, like you said.
Yeah, exactly. We're saying very confidently, having never been in this situation, I would love that kid.
I would be trying to claw my way out.
Yeah, but with the kid, I'd take the kid with me.
But I think there's also a difference between us. You would hate to be pregnant. I want to be pregnant.
Yeah, exactly. I want to adopt anyway. So this is a dreamy situation.
You'd be telling him, hey, do you want to taste pad thai?
Yeah, plus they grow up super quickly because I'm not a baby person. I like babies. Babies are cute, but, you know, I don't want to change the diapers. It's gross. I'm not a fluid person. So the fact that he turns 7 within, you know, a few months, I'm down with that. I'm so ready. That's when they have personality.
God really was supposed to make Tierney a man so she could be a dad.
It's so true.
And that's another thing, is even being flight attendants, is I'm over here tossing and turning, worrying, because I know if I have a baby, I'm going to want to be a stay-at-home parent, but, you know, I don't want to give up this job because it has such great benefits. Tierney, I don't think it had any issue.
Nope. Oh,
no. Nope.
Oh, no. Their other parent gets them for 4 days a week. We're good. We're so good. And I get to take them on overnights and be the cool parent. It's great.
I mean, we do also live in an era of FaceTime and stuff, so it's very different.
I mean, I talk to them every day. It's fine. I already talk to Margaret near damn every day. She texts me from her smartwatch. Aww. And she texts like a golden retriever just learned how to text. You know the golden retriever from Up?
Yes, Doug!
That's how she texts. I'll just get, hello, happy face, unicorn emoji. And I say, hi.
I thought of you and how much I love you.
No, it's not even full sentences. She's just like, I miss you. Happy days. Hungry. French fries. Like, what is it? All within the span of 60 seconds.
Yeah, that's a child.
Yeah, that's a kid.
So that was Vivarium. I highly recommend it, but very big trigger warning for child abuse.
Honestly, it's a big trigger warnings for several of the movies on this list. If you have hypersensitivity towards kids, this is being mistreated.
Irish horror. There are a lot of changeling stories on here. So, but this one, just to say, like,
yeah, this was the one that big affected me.
Yeah, and again, I think it's because nothing got replaced.
Yeah. Next up is The Hallow from 2015 by Corin Hardy, who directed a film from a major current horror franchise. I want you to guess which one. Do you want a hint?
A major current? God, they've all been getting reboots.
I know. It's not a reboot.
I'll take a hint.
Okay. I hate it.
That's a lot.
That's not a lot.
Was it Saw?
I don't hate the Saw franchise.
No, you said you hate. I thought you meant you hated the recent one.
No, not the franchise. I hate the franchise.
Halloween.
No, I don't hate the Halloween franchise. I don't hate it. I think it's wildly overrated. I don't hate it.
Wow.
I hate this franchise. You know me. I have complained about this franchise so much to you. I can't believe this. I'm trying to think.
Okay.
Name some that you think I hate.
Well, you complained so much about Halloween. The reason I brought up Saw is because I know there's a recent one out. There's been a couple movies. It can't be Hellraiser because Hellraiser just recently had a reboot. There hasn't been any Friday the 13th.
I like Friday the 13th.
I know you do. But now I'm just trying to think in recent franchises.
It's recent franchise. Like started recently. Think later than Saw, baby.
Later than Saw. You hate The Conjuring. It's The Conjuring?
Yes, girl.
Oh my God.
He directed The Nun.
Oh, okay.
Damn, like, do you know me?
Here's the thing. I know, I haven't seen any of the Conjuring verse. I know that it's a franchise, but in my head, when you say franchise, I'm thinking like all under the same name.
It's a whole damn cinematic universe.
I'm not thinking of the cinematic universe where you have Conjuring, whatever.
If I said cinematic universe, you would have known immediately because I call it the MCU of horror.
Right. That would have been the hint.
I know, but I figured...
I hate it.
I didn't think you'd need that much help. The only franchise I complain about more than the Conjuring series is fucking Hostel. Unbelievable.
Well, we don't typically, because I haven't seen any of the Conjuring universe, we haven't talked in depth about them. So when I think about...
Like that has ever stopped.
No, but when I think about like, oh, you know I don't like it, I think of Halloween. Because you always, every time Halloween is brought up, you have to mention...
I do, because
how much of it?
I don't hate Halloween. I don't hate the Halloween
On record, I don't hate Halloween.
I don't hate the Halloween franchise. Okay, I'm a Carpenter fan. I love The Thing.
What about vampires?
Yeah, we're not talking about that one right now. But Halloween, I just think, is wildly overrated. It's not anything like the first of its kind. It wouldn't exist without Black Christmas, which is just such a better film in every way and never gets any credit. And that bothers me. And that's it. There are more bad Halloween movies than good, but most of them are bad in a funny way. That's fine. I can watch that.
Okay.
I can do a Halloween marathon. That's fine. The Conjuring marathon, ugh.
Okay. So all that to say, this guy also did a Conjuring movie.
Yes, this guy also directed The Nun. I just thought that was kind of funny.
Okay.
So The Halloween from 2015 by Corin Hardy. A family who moved into a remote mail house in Ireland finds themselves in a fight for survival with demonic creatures living in the woods.
You said The Halloween.
Did I say The Halloween?
You did!
That's so funny.
Like a Hallow.
2015. No ween in there at all. There's no sex. So I said, really good effects, an eerie fairy tale nightmare atmosphere, an English conservationist helping a deforestation effort in rural Ireland moves to the woods with his wife and infant son, quickly learning that they have been trespassing on the land of someone or something supernatural. Does interesting things with a fungal zombie-esque brand of fair folk referred to as the Hallow. Tickles me that in the early 2010s, it seems like horror writers discovered cordyceps all at once. The Last of Us in 2013, The Girl with All the Gifts in 2014, and this in 2015. Something which has terrified me ever since I found out about it on the Discovery Channel when I was 10. Very good use of dog tension. There's a scene where they call an Irish cop because they think somebody's harassing them, and he explains why the locals hate them. And he says, they believe that the forest you've been trampling on belongs to the Hallow. You say the Hallow? He says, the good people. Fairies, banshees, baby stealers. You're not afraid of your Irish folklore, are you, Mr. Hitchens? A conquered people, forever in hiding, driven from their sacred land by man with iron and fire. The conservationist says, beautifully told, so you're a believer? And he says, not me, I'm from Belfast. Different sort of boogeyman up there. The fact that it's English city people poking around after ignoring rural Irish locals, albeit not very explanatory warnings, a staple in the genre, seen in films like Pumpkinhead and Wrong Turn, any city people decide to slum it in a cabin in the woods type situation, and directly references the Book of Invasions, a collection of historical/mythological invasions and conquering of Ireland as a whole, makes its point quite neatly. 3.5 stars.
3.5. I think I agree with it. I might be inclined to give it 4 because I think overall it's pretty good. I think I said this might be an issue with me where I feel like, so the forest is being sold off for commercial interest, right? Mm-hmm. It's literally being taken for profit,
right?
Which is what colonialism is.
Yeah.
But our protagonist is a conservationist who goes in and sees that, oh, they're diseased. They have to go down anyway. I feel like that kind of muddles it a little, and I like the idea of the Fae being this fungus, because he says specifically of cordyceps that when they take over an ant, it's basically turns it into an automaton, that it's no longer itself. So the fungus is the thing. And so the idea of the Fae as being not even humanoid, it's just this fungus that then overtakes people and turns them into its automatons. And what you see as the fairies are actually just
people turned into drones,
emissaries, drones, not the thing itself. I really like that. I also think the film did a really good job with the tar goo, that it didn't look oily. It didn't look commercial.
It looked very fungal.
It did look very fungal. And I don't know, I feel like I will say this could just be me seeing a concept and wanting to see my own fulfillment, but especially with Cora's storyline, I like the idea of it being like a genuine poison, it being a metaphor for the poison of small communities where it's, they're never very clear about it. It's like the missing stair people in communities where it's like, we won't tell you explicitly what it is, but if something fucked up happens, if you, are alone with the wrong person, like we'll just tell you, well, we told you to avoid them. And the idea that even if Cora were to show back up at her house, her dad would just kill her because he'd be like, well, you're not my daughter anymore.
Yeah.
And that's not what the film is.
Yeah, it's not really this
It
movie.
isn't. And so I don't know. I just think that there's something there when you understand that this fungus is genuinely bad to the health of the forest. It goes against the message of, well, they're the people of this forest.
Well, so what I took away from it was that he just didn't understand
What it was. Oh, okay.
And so he saw it as just disease in the trees, but it's actually a part of the forest.
But it was just something native to it he didn't know because he's from London.
Right.
Okay, I can see that.
I gotta say, I didn't dislike that he was a conservationist working on the behest of the lumber company or whoever, or the government, whoever he was working for. Because, I mean, that does exist. And I kind of liked the idea of he didn't want to be doing this, but it's his job. And in the end, motive doesn't override
what you've done.
Yeah. So, you know, it didn't really matter that he didn't technically want to be trespassing. I'm sure Cora didn't want to be trespassing whenever she was in the woods. She was a little girl.
Right.
But that doesn't matter. By their old rules, you're trespassing.
Yeah.
I liked it. It was pretty good.
Yeah. I really like the design for the fairies. I really like them. And I really like Adam turning into a fairy and him as this, you know, grown adult, healthy male being able to fight them off when he starts screaming at them like them.
Yeah.
I really like that. It reminds me of 30 Days of Night at the end where the protagonist
it also reminded me of that.
Where, you know, he turns.
He becomes one of them in order to fight them.
And the thing is the vampire in the comic specifically, he's this ancient old thing. And part of the reason why the cop can overtake him is because he's this healthy, strong, young blood that's been turned. And I really like the drama of he's still himself enough to be able to fight for his family. He still remembers himself and he's able to fight for his family even after he's clearly changing.
He's infected, yeah.
Right. And I like the idea that even in their drones of the Fae, they still remember themselves. Cora, as this fairy, she's very clearly asking Adam as he's turning to be her daddy.
Yeah.
And she's taken the baby because she's
another member of the family.
Right. And the idea that they've lured, I forgot the wife's name. Her.
Sorry, lady.
I'm so sorry. They give you all the most basic names.
Yeah.
They lured her out with a fake baby, and that maybe that would have infected her as well because they're infected through the eye. And Adam gets infected because he's looking through the keyhole to see out the front door to see if they're still there, and then one of them pokes them. And the wife almost gets poked as she's trying to defend the baby.
The dog also gets infected.
Yes, that's
very
so
good use of dog
sad.
tension, I gotta say.
And again, even the dog seems to remember who they are, that sense of protecting the
and
family.
Loyalty.
Literally, the last time we see the dog, it's Iggy's the dog's name. I feel so bad for forgetting the wife's name now.
Sorry, lady. You should have said her name more. I don't know. She said Adam all the time.
Adam! But the last time we see the dog, it's like laying down and you see the spores growing out of it. And the dog still turns its head to look at Adam. So sorry.
Dog dies.
Yeah.
Does the dog die? Yes.
Yeah. And you brought this up with the different Changeling movies that we've seen, is that this is the movie that really brought the tension of you have your baby and a Changeling that looks just like it. You have to decide. And if you choose wrong, your child dies. That's horrific.
Yeah, I think that's the real horror of Changeling stories. I've always thought that was the scariest part. Just this idea that if you get this wrong, you have just killed your child.
Yeah. And the movie does a really good job without getting stupid, where it's, what's reality? This movie does
all a dream.
A dream. Like, this movie does very well of making you question who's right, because Adam looks at this baby and this isn't our kid. This isn't our kid. It's not our kid. And again, big trigger warning for child abuse.
Yeah.
He's about to drive an iron nail into the head, and his wife stops him because she only sees their baby, and you don't know if...
Because he's changing.
Yes.
So who knows?
Is it because he's seeing clearly?
Yeah.
Is he being lied to by the fungus? Whatever.
His eyes are all fucked up too. Like, this man has vision problems by now.
Like, and the way that the one eye is fucked up, it's set lower and set flat.
Oh, it's gross.
Yeah. No, it does it really well. And
very good creature effects, very good virus effects.
Yeah, and you don't know who's right or wrong. And when you see his wife grabs one of the babies and leaves, and she ends up grabbing the baby that Adam brought her. And you're looking at Adam as he's dying, looking at the sunlight hit this version of the baby, and you're like, oh God, did she choose wrong? Was he wrong? And then you see the smoke start to come off it, and it's like, oh, thank God, this baby's burning alive. It wasn't the real one.
Thank God the baby's burning alive.
That's what I thought in my head, where I was like, and again, I think it does still kind of feel sad where you're looking at it and you're just like,
it is. I would have loved that little monstrous mandrake root thing, and then it infected me.
Just where
joined the hive.
Yeah.
Just join the lichen people. It's fine. Next is Dead Meat from 2004 by Connor McMahon. An infection spreads from slaughtered animals to humans, which causes the dead to rise and feed on the living. I said, so by the numbers, basic Night of the Living Dead / Evil Dead style without much charisma in its own right. A few fun moments. For instance, I mentioned that I've got a spot of whiskey moment. There's one moment where these people felt like real people, and it's when they've been running for their lives the whole day. A lot has happened. Loved ones have died. And the old man says, let's make camp for the night. I've got a spot of whiskey. And suddenly the other two are like, wait, that sounds nice, actually. Let's hang out for a minute and drink. But ultimately could have used a lot more time in the incubator. Shout out to the zombie cow, which was another fun moment that I enjoyed. 1.5 stars.
Tierney and I have discussed amateur filmmakers at length, and that was a big point of discussion for this film, because this film is very clearly someone's first film. And the thing that's really strong about this film is that it is in the style of Evil Dead, but it actually, I think, as far as the camera work, really nails it. He's clearly very talented with the camera. There's a really beautiful tracking shot in the beginning of a farmer getting up and going out to the field, and it's such a simple thing. And I also really love that it's filmed a lot at the blue hour. I really like that. So the camera work really is some of the best of it. And the thing with theater and film is that they're big group projects. And you really have to have a good team. And for any other theater fags out there, I'm sure you've been part of a production where one person was absolutely miserable and it just ruined the whole thing. No matter how good everyone else was, no matter how on it everyone else was, one rotten apple spoiled the bunch. And the actors are not good in this.
Not good.
The writing is also...
Writing sucks, bro.
It is sucks.
And nice. The script is not a script.
It's not very good. And the thing is that it tries to be a very serious movie, and it tries to have this serious ending where, you know, our heroine makes it to the end, but then she's finally rescued by whatever, the government, but then she's just thrown to this cattle truck and treated as if she's still infected.
Yeah.
But there's still moments of humor in it that are supposed to be funny, but it has the sin of bad comedy where it's not punchy, it's not quick, it lingers too long. When the heroine and our hero, Des, meet up with this old couple, they're clearly supposed to be this miserable old couple that's in every small town. And it's like, oh fuck, they're the ones that survived. I did like when she goes to introduce herself to his wife and his wife just stares at her.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, I've known old ladies like that. But everything gets so drawn out and it's not quick enough.
For as short of a movie as it is,
there are parts that feel very long.
It just did not know how to pace itself.
And also, as much as I praise the camera work, did not know what to do with the lighting.
The lighting was awful.
Lighting was terrible. Once it got dark,
you couldn't tell what was going on.
Absolutely terrible.
Yeah, and not in the way that a lot of modern horror does, which still annoys me, where they purposefully make it super dark because they think that makes it scarier, but in actuality, you just can't see shit.
This is clearly just ineptitude of like, we don't know how to light the scene. But the thing is that I still, especially because seeing his later works, I do like watching this because you can tell that this is someone who does have talent.
Yeah.
This is just their first work. Here's the thing. I've never painted landscapes. I'm sure the first landscape I paint would be shit.
For sure. Listen, here's the thing. and I've said this before to you when we were discussing this, I have so much respect for people who make movies. Even if it's a bad movie, making a movie, that's hard work. I've never done that.
The fact that it gets done.
Yeah, I've never done that. That's a lot of work. That's a lot of time. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of effort on a lot of people's parts. And for it to all come together to even make a film, bad or good, that's a miracle. So, all of that said, if I think a movie is bad, I'm going to say it's bad. I respect the work and dedication put into it, but you made a bad movie. Sorry. Better luck next time. And he did. He came out with some real winners after this one. So it worked for him. He cut his teeth on it. It was bad. Whose first project isn't? But it was a training wheels film, and it wasn't good.
And I think that there's something to be said of, right, like we've talked about people having different bad tastes. I think I have a taste where I can tolerate very amateur filmmaking because I find it really fascinating because that, to me, like you really see bare what it takes to make a film when some things are wrong or missing or when someone doesn't know how it is. So for something that even has terrible cinematography, like in Colony, there's something about it where you're like, oh my God, it doesn't even look like a movie.
Uh-huh.
I have less tolerance for movies that are very competently made, but are just insufferable. Like my brain shut off watching An American Werewolf in Paris. I never do this. I'm usually the person that's like, well, let's see it through because I want to do it. Like my brain shut off.
An American Werewolf in Paris is such a tragedy. I feel so bad.
But that's a different discussion. But just to say that if you're someone who is really interested in amateur filmmaking, who is willing to sift through the dirt for gems, I think you might like this movie.
All of them found on Tubi.
All of them. No, this one wasn't even on Tubi.
This one was on Tubi. I watched them to Tubi, I think.
I tried watching it on Tubi and it wasn't on there. Okay.
Maybe I'm lying. I don't know.
I ended up renting this on YouTube.
Did you really?
I did. I paid $1.99.
Oh my God.
Mr. McMahoon, that $2 was for you.
If it's not on Tubi, then I guess I just pirated it.
I think you might have just pirated it because I did look for it.
Oh, okay.
Even Tubi said, fuck this shit.
Damn. It's better than fucking liking Colony.
It is.
Okay.
There is also kind of a sense of watching this where it's, in getting to talking about his next two films, he films in the same area, so he's very clearly a hometown
hero.
Yeah, filmmakers. And there's so many extras in this that you can tell are just regular people.
Yeah,
there was probably, he went down to the pub and was like, you guys want to be in a movie? Come out to a field and just stand there.
We'll pay you $20 each.
We're gonna slap some makeup on you in 2 seconds.
Yeah. I mean, even in real films, so in 28 Days Later, this is a fun BTS fact for a film that's not on this list.
Cillian Murphy's in it. Tenuous connection.
Yeah. During the church scene with the mob of zombies and everything, they needed so many extras that they didn't have. They literally went to a local university and they were like, hey, you guys volunteer for this, you'll get paid in tea. They were literally all paid in tea. It was so funny. They just all agreed to do it.
Bunch of college students, something better to do.
That's
Hell yeah.
filming on a budget.
Yeah, baby.
But so that's dead meat.
Well, I do want to say this very specifically that I think, because we've talked about this, that when we talk about amateur filmmaking, I feel like you are almost thinking and talking to amateur filmmakers and I am talking to audience.
Yeah.
Whereas you bring up good points of, if you're going to be an amateur filmmaker, you need to really understand what projects you can make.
You need to know your capabilities.
You need to know your capabilities and kind of stay within them. And for me, when I think of amateur filmmaking, I'm kind of talking to audience to be like, well, if you want to find hidden gems, you have to be willing to go through the grinder.
Yeah.
You have to understand that like even the hidden gems are going to be rough.
Yeah, and I think those are both good.
Yeah, and that's why I wanted to bring it up.
Yeah. Next, from Connor McMahon, my man, who's really holding down the horror comedy in Ireland.
Once he went to horror comedy, he got much better.
He found his wavelength. He had it. So Stitches in 2012. A clown comes back from the dead to haunt those who took his life during a fatal party mishap. And boy, what a mishap. I was hesitant, given it started with a pretty obnoxious sex scene. And then a little boy ogling his friend's mom's boobs. But man, did it kick up in the delightful factor very quickly. Death by butcher knife in the dishwasher is one of my sister's greatest fears. And the clown ritual was great. The teens take turns feeling like real teenagers versus cardboard stereotypes written by a grown man, but the comedy makes it bearable this time around. Also, I love full frontal dick ripping off, last seen in iconic 2019 Icelandic film Thirst. I literally texted you during that moment. That was the moment when I texted you saying, bro, I'm all caps, I'm washing stitches and holy shit. It was during the dick ripping off scene.
Glad to have context for that text.
Yeah, it was great. Oh, so I wrote down this moment because it just made me laugh so hard. The main character, Tom, it was his birthday party that this clown died at, and he and his friends were being kind of shitheads, like kids
Kinda.
are. Well, you know, they didn't mean to actually hurt this clown. And the clown was kind of an asshole.
No, the clown was bad. He was bad.
The clown was an asshole. And these kids were, you know, slagging off on him. And they accidentally caused him to die. He fell on this steak knife. And it traumatized Tom. Traumatized him. He can't stand clowns, he can't stand parties, they just trigger the fuck out of him. And it's his birthday, you know, years later. And one of his friends decides to throw him a birthday party because his mom's going to be gone, so the house will be empty. And he's talking to the other friends about it. And one of them says, you can't throw Tom a party. That's like flashing a strobe light at an epileptic.
Well, my favorite part about that is that friend didn't even remember it was his birthday. He just was like, oh, your mom's gone. Oh, we're going to throw a rager. Hey! And he was like, no, we can't. It's my birthday. Yeah. You know we can't do that. And he's like, wait, it's your birthday?
Like double rager.
No, it wasn't even Tom that reminded him. It was another friend.
Yeah, it was another friend.
That's so funny.
And I said when sad teen boy, because I forgot his name, even though I literally wrote it a sentence above, Tom is the sad teen boy. When Tom is spying on his crush through the telescope, they don't do anything gross like having him watch her undress, which was a relief. Their social media is my face, which just cracked me up. And the principal, I think it was a principal or like vice principal, guidance counselor, I don't know.
Some
man of authority at the school is yelling at the girl face friend, their friend that's a girl, who is clearly sort of going for the alternative look, the alternative 2012 Zooey Deschanel haircut look. And he says, what are you now, emo? But he says it in such a thick ass accent. It's so funny.
What are you now, emo?
They have a friend that's fat, and a lot of his character is just fat phobia and fat jokes, and that's not cool. But I enjoyed that he was so obviously gay, and that is never made fun of.
Yeah, so right off the bat, what I want to say about this film is that I wish it didn't have all of the fat jokes and the teen sexualization. I
mean, the teen sexualization felt more...
But it
didn't feel like teen sexualization that you get on the CW. It felt like, I don't know, it felt kind of jokey to me. It didn't feel like it was taking it seriously.
There'd still be long pans over like a 16-year-old girl's ass and panties. And there's literally like a picture of a nip slip that's left in as this one pervert friend is going around photographing all the girls.
Oh.
Like
missed that. I was building a bed frame while I watched this.
No, well, there's a lot of like lingering things on it, and that's what I was like. Because again, I'm texting you where I was like watching Stitches, and and I was just like, oh, I just wish it didn't have these.
Well, fun for me that I missed that part.
But yeah, no, I like that when that character got to, because there were fat jokes about him before he even got to speak. But when he got to talk as a older teen, where it's he's gay.
He's so clearly gay. Everyone knows.
Yeah, like
it's just not a joke.
He has a gray skull scarf.
Yeah,
which is like I would have had that.
He has that little lip. That's
does.
his actual voice. The actor's actual voice.
Yeah. Even the way that he kind of...
so cunty.
Yeah, and the way he also takes charge when he's like, all right, well, if we're going to have this party, we're going to do it right.
Yeah.
We need to decorate. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. Like, it's his first birthday party in 6
and again,
years.
It's never, like, his friends don't rag on him for that at all. They're just kind of like, oh, all right. Guess we gotta put in work.
The fat jokes are
egregious. Did get old. The fat jokes did get old, for sure. I put cat dies, sad face.
I feel like the cat death is alleviated by the fact that it's such a obvious stuffed animal.
It's a really funny gag, but I was sad though. I didn't want the cat to die.
I know. When I realized the cat was going to die, I was like, oh, and it's a very pretty cat.
It's a very pretty cat.
The shot of the cat tombstone at the end made me laugh.
I know.
With the cross.
With the little cross in the picture. I put some jokes land better than others. Love the effects. Every kill is great.
Yes.
Every kill is great. There is not a dull kill in this movie.
So the gimmick of the movie is that this birthday party clown, who's terrible at his job, dies at a kid's birthday party. And these other clowns hold kind of like a ritual.
It's so funny. They're ritualistically, rhythmically chanting hee hee ha ha hee hee ha ha.
No, it's great. And
like Gregorian monks.
And they say specifically to Tom, who's peeping on this, that a clown who doesn't finish a party is never truly at rest. And so 6 years later, during this rager, a invite to Tom's birthday party, which he wanted to just be a low-key thing between
just with his friends,
gets blown onto Stitch's grave, and Stitches comes back, and he only hunts down the kids from that party. There's only like 6 kills the whole movie.
Yeah, but man, they're all great though.
They're all great, and the thing is, they're all really matter, and there's always like just a little bit of a very short flashback, just so you know, which kid it was. Because each kid fucked with him at the party in a different way. Yeah. And so it's a reminder of that.
My favorite was he tore this kid's torso open and made his intestines into a balloon animal. Man,
the director even said that I had that kill before I had the script.
Every kill was great, and you know what? That one deserved its own movie, so I'm glad it got one. And then I ended with the very end blowjob is fucking weird. Just this clown getting ahead in the clown crypt.
Yeah.
That was bizarre, and I did not enjoy it. But otherwise, it's a great time. 4 stars.
And I want to give a lot of credit to the lead actor, Ross.
Oh, he killed it.
Well, what was his last name? All right, while you look that up, I'll just say...
Ross Nolan, I think?
No, it's a very short name. I think it's a D. But anyway... He plays this clown so well, where he's understated enough that you almost kind of believe him as a real...
Ross Noble.
Noble.
I was so close.
I was right with... No, I said what's a D. Anyway.
Yeah, I said Nolan. That's almost Noble.
A D is close spiritually to a B.
Oh my god, what if I killed you?
Ross Noble, he does such a good job and of delivering it. Like, one of the best lines is when he's yelling at these kids to, like, sit down and shut up. And one of the kids yells, "You're not my dad." And he yells, "Shut up. I could be."
And this kid is so clearly questioning everything.
Ross Noble does a really great job with this clown. At the party, he's understated enough. Well, he's not cartoonish. You really believe him as like...
Pretty cartoonish.
He is, but his deadpan delivery, I think, is what sells it.
The humor works.
And even as he's risen from the dead, he's still that same deadpan. And Noble said in an interview that he kind of played it where this clown is treating it like another party where he's like, "Ah, fuck, I gotta kill these kids." Like, he's kind of over it.
Yeah, and Noble also is not an actor first and foremost. He's a comedian.
Oh, right.
I thought that was a great idea.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you have a comedy lead. Let's get this comedian who does character work in his act. He's also a huge horror fan. That was another big thing that I love about this movie. I love when genre fans make the genre film.
You can tell this
comes through.
You can tell this was made by someone who really loves horror.
It's just good. It was a good time. I really enjoyed it.
There was a line that I did think was very funny where one of the kids was trying to get with this girl that he liked, and they went up to the bedroom, but then he went off to try and help his friend who's like, "There's the killer clown Black, you have to help me." And the girl he's with is like, "Ah, fuck this, I'm just leaving." And he comes back not knowing that she's fully gone, and under the covers it turns out it's the clown, and as he comes up he's just like, "Oh, are you 16? I don't want to go to prison."
Yeah.
It's like he's just mocking him.
Yeah.
And it's clearly not like a salacious.
into this kid. Yeah.
That it is, but that's why I thought it was very funny. Like, it's not salacious, it's so deadpan and so mocking.
Snarky. I really enjoyed the humor in this one. Most of the jokes landed for me. I mentioned not all of them do. The fat stuff, I could do without.
Like, you could have had, I thought there was one fat joke that kind of worked, which was when Tom has been hurt, gay friend is running to get, it's like, oh, you have to get a first aid, it's in the pantry, and he runs to the pantry, and he goes, oh, perfect, there it is, and the camera pans to the first aid kit, and his hand reaches in front of it and grabs a food item.
It's a can of beans.
It's a can of strawberries.
Is it strawberries?
It's strawberries.
Beans. It's brown.
It's strawberries.
It's brown coming down. Those are some fucked up strawberries. It was brown as shit. It looked disgusting.
They were strawberries. And I did even like the kill of the ice cream scoop in the skull.
The kill was fun. I just thought it was kind of weak sauce to have, oh, he's fat. Of course he eats like a fucking slob. Yeah. Like letting it dribble all down his face and his shirt. Yeah. Which really didn't make sense for his character because he was so fastidious. Yeah. He was so fastidious about how everything looks. He was talking shit about everyone else's fashion. Yeah. And he's just going to let all of this food stain his clothes because he's fat. So he just eats like that. He got taken to H&M. He's not going to let it get on his stuff. It was crazy. I was like, what are we doing? Yeah. So that was a moment that I was kind of like, this doesn't land for me. Yeah, and that's what I mean is that specific shot of him being like, oh, perfect. And then it turns out he's grabbing something else. Yeah, and then you can just leave off there. Yeah. He's just in the pantry still when the clown happens upon him. Yeah. And then you have the cool can opener skull scene. And then him puppeteering it. Yeah. Yeah. Very fun. The clown nose sniffing everyone out. Yes. There were so many fun gags in this movie that they compensated for the ones that didn't hit for me. Yeah, and it was mostly practical effects, but they use CGI well. Like the clown nose is CGI, and you can tell it's CGI. Yeah, but it looks fine. Yeah, it's fine. I'm not as bothered by obvious CGI. Skill issue. I believe in the magic of theater. But I say this all the time. I feel like horror fans can be so snobby about digital effects. They can be just so snobby about it. And I think there's a time and a place. And the thing is, you can use digital effects really interestingly, like with the cat trying to bat at the nose. Yeah. That's why the cat gets killed, is that the cat sees the nose moving around and grabs it, plays with it, and Stitches doesn't like that. Flips it around like a rag doll. Oh my gosh, you just see the shadow of Stitches fall on the cat, and I was like, oh, I know. And then the next scene, it's funny. Like they clearly put fake blood on a stuffed cat. Yeah. So you see Stitches beating it on a chair in the attic. Cat sound effects from Quarantine 2. Oh my gosh! And you see like this one. The blood splattering, and it's so clearly a stuffed animal. Yeah, it's very fun. But my point being that when the cat has that nose, that did take effort. They had to have some kind of green screen thing to do that for the cat to interact with, and I appreciate that. That's using, I think, digital effects, not just because you want to underpay people. Yeah, exactly. For sure. It's saying like, okay, this is what we want to happen. Digital effects will give us that result. Mm-hmm. The head exploding, I saw that, and I was just like, hell yeah, scanners. Yep. Oh, yeah. That was practical. I did really like Stitches, and I felt like, okay, Mr. McMahon, you just need to be horror comedy. Yeah. And that was another thing that really impressed me after having just watched Dead Meat was he's figured out how to do comedy. You make it quick, you make it snappy. Yeah. Like don't linger. You don't just leave the camera rolling after the punchline. Yeah, exactly. His next one was Let the Wrong One In. In 2021, a young supermarket worker discovers that his older brother is a vampire and must choose whether to help him or slay him. I said, mostly funny with an actual emotional bit about what it's like to watch someone you love slowly kill themselves over and over. I love that they got Giles from Buffy to be the most insufferable vampire hunter of all time. What a joy to watch the evolution of Connor McMahon, who seems to be carrying the Irish horror comedy film economy on his back. The effects are noticeably worse than in Stitches, but it feels purposeful in a camp way, and almost all the jokes land for me. Ultimately, they're very different, Nightmare on Elm Street versus Shaun of the Dead, but I enjoyed them both the same. 4 stars. I agree completely. Yeah, and with the Nightmare on Elm Street comparison to Stitches, because I feel like they're in the same realm of horror comedy, where it's still horror. Like, this is still a slasher movie. I feel like getting picked off.
If you're doing it by percentages, Stitches is more horror than comedy. Let the Wrong One In is more comedy than horror.
For sure. That's how I feel about it as well. And also with Stitches, another reason that I compared it to Nightmare on Elm Street is one of the things that I love about Nightmare on Elm Street, and I noticed this in Stitches and really enjoyed it, was these kids are allowed to interact with each other and be friends outside of the plot.
Yeah.
Like, they have moments where it doesn't really affect the plot at all, but it lets you see them as, no, this is a friend group. This is a group of teenagers who actually know each other and like each other and have a relationship with each other. And Stitches has a lot of that.
And then that carries weight to when they're like, oh no, something's happening. We have to help our friends.
Right. One of my favorite moments in the slasher period is Nightmare on Elm Street when, fuck is that man's name? Johnny Depp. When Johnny Depp's character and Nancy and Tina are having their little sleepover and his mom calls. And he has this boombox of recorded special effects sounds to make it sound like he's at his cousin's house near an airport, but he doesn't realize that there are more special effects on there. And it's just hysterical. It is a really funny scene that has nothing to do with the plot whatsoever.
No,
but it lets you see them as people. And Stitches has several moments like that in the high school before Stitches reanimates, but also at the party when Tom knows that Stitches is back, but no one else does yet, and he's trying to get his friend's attention when his friend is trying to hook up in his bedroom, and he throws a rock at his bedroom window, and these other teen boys are there, and they come over and they start mocking him as if he's like trying to get his friend back and say anything. Like, he's John Cusack.
Like, oh, he's mad for you.
Yeah,
he'll take him back.
It's so funny. And it felt so reminiscent of that in energy. And I just love when slashers do that.
And even the two bullies, they felt very real. There's this sense of especially the girl, when she has this almost insincere friendliness.
Yeah.
That I think you don't see a lot of in bullying in media.
Mm-hmm.
Where it's like
much more cliche.
Yeah, where it's like that's closer to reality. Because when teenagers are bullying, like, they don't want to get in trouble.
Exactly. They can't all be evil psychopaths all the time.
Right. And so they fake this friendliness kind of thing.
Yeah, I agree. But we're talking about Stitches again. We're on Let the Wrong One In. That was my fault. But we're getting back on track. I loved it. I thought it was so funny.
I also really loved it.
Every hit landed for me in this one.
I was actually really surprised how much the plot is so interesting to me, because there's so much that happens that if you were to hit the big points, you would skip over a lot of it, because a lot of it happens when his brother comes home and then shit just happens in their house, but you believe it because the actors are really good.
They're selling the hell out of it.
They're selling it and you believe it, and this idea of it's just this one really shitty day.
It's just a really shitty day.
And trying to figure it out, and the minutia of like, oh my God, my burnout older brother.
Literally the plot is, what if your burnout older brother gets turned into a vampire? Just the shittiest vampire you've ever seen.
The worst vampire. Yeah, I loved it too. And I really love that you just got the sense that, they're real brothers.
Yeah.
They feel like it. It feels almost cliche to say they argue like siblings really do. I don't know how to explain it, especially close siblings. I'm the oldest, but my sister is right after me. And the way that you fight with a sibling that close is you're forced to be in this house with them. It's both tense and also you'll drop it at a moment's notice over certain things.
Yeah.
It's hard to explain, but the film really nails it.
Yeah, it does.
And like the petty grievances that come up.
The sibling pettiness for me that really sold it for me. When his older brother is like, do I have a lisp now with my fangs? And his younger brother who's all pissed off at him, and he goes, yes, you do. It's very noticeable.
And I also really love about this where the older brother, clearly this burnout.
He's an addict.
He's been kicked out of the house because he was selling their stuff.
He was stealing and selling stuff from their house, like communal items.
Right.
And so their mom kicks him out.
And he's also been stealing from his younger brother's work. And his brother has just kind of been letting him because that's his brother. Right. And he knows. He's a doormat. Yeah. And he knows
that's why his name is Matt. No, it really is.
I forgot their names. So
his name is Matt. And when we're first introduced to him, he's walking home
and wiping his feet on a doormat.
And wiping his feet on a doormat that says, "I am not your doormat." And he is. He is his brother's doormat. And a big part of this movie is him learning not to be a doormat to his older brother, but also realizing that, no, his older brother does also need help.
Yeah.
He just also needs to respect boundaries.
Right. And the big tiff between the two of them, and the reason why he doesn't, immediately report his older brother, is that when his brother steals and sells their television, Matt points the finger to their mom and snitches on him and says, yeah, it was him. He did sell it for drugs.
Yeah.
And his older brother keeps holding that over him of, you're the reason I got kicked out. You owe me.
Got him kicked out, even though it was his fault. It was his own actions that got him kicked out. And Matt finally has that confrontation with him.
Yeah.
After it just boiling up. And that's the actual emotional part that I mentioned. It really is when you're watching it. This is such a funny, silly comedy, and it is, and it's campy and it's silly, but this moment really doesn't hold back. It does feel emotional because, that's what it's like when you're watching someone that you love slowly killing themselves through their own choices and they refuse to stop. And eventually it's either you cut them off or you're going to find their dead body one day. And
also, he is hurting them by stealing from them. Yeah, but you see your brother and he's this burnout. He looks unwell. He's this skinny guy.
He looks like a burnout. And he looks like the neighborhood guy who just smokes on the steps all day and drinks at the pub all night, never pays the tab.
And the thing is he has a girlfriend, Natalie, and as he calls her, she looks like a normal person. Yeah. And so watching it, I was like, oh, well, is it that, okay, maybe he's just changed so much as a vampire that he looked more normal. And when you see older pictures of him, I'm sure there were the actor's actual family photos. He looks so different. He looks like, I don't know, like a normal human being. They really packed on the powder.
Yeah.
But then when you meet Natalie, it's very clear that, oh no, she's fucked up too.
Yeah. She's a chav girlfriend.
Her first response when she finds out her boyfriend's a vampire is just, oh, I love Twilight. I love the Team Edwards and Team Jacobs and all that. And her first response is show her neck. And just be like, oh, go for it.
Yeah, they're a match made in hell.
They are. And then, but it continues where, no, she looks pretty normal, but she's mentally fucked because their mom gets kidnapped. And her first thought is, if your mom dies, we inherit the house, let her die.
Yeah. But also the villains in this are this cult of, it's an eternal hen party where the bride got during her hen party, she got turned into a vampire, then she turned all her hens, and now they're just rocking out, turning people in Dublin into vampires.
Yes, and I do love that it's just an eternal hen party.
They're just middle-aged women. It's so fun.
And I love that that's part of the comedy that's really good, where the older brother's just like, this young woman came and just attacked me, and then you meet her and she's middle-aged, and his brother's immediately just like, you said she was a young woman, you cougar catcher, going after grannies now. And again, when Natalie is face to face with this woman, she's just like, stay away from my fella. And this woman's like, I don't give a fuck.
She's ready to throw hands immediately.
This woman's like, I don't care. Keep him. I don't the fuck.
Yeah. I'm drinking my ex right now. Can you leave?
Yes, Giles shows up. He's the most insufferable, train-obsessed vampire hunter.
What if the most insufferable nerd you knew became a vampire hunter? With his dodgy Irish accent.
And the thing is, that's part of what makes it camp, is that he's a real actor.
Yeah.
And so he's terribly tied to an office chair, and he's delivering this monologue to Matt about, we have to kill them, whatever. But he's just shuffling along in the chair as he's so funny. Fully serious. And I've always thought that that's what makes real camp, is that the actors don't know they're in camp.
Yeah, they play it straight.
They have to believe it. Yeah. Every insane word. And this movie delivers.
They did it so
and
well.
I just love the post-credit scene with the older brother, and Natalie shows up, and it does feel very Irish where, you know, Matt like literally locked her in bat form in a car in the glove compartment, and he sees her and he's
after beheading her.
Yeah. And they see each other, and it's just like, oh, it's me. Oh, hey, now, oh, what's the story? Oh, it's good. Yeah, it's good. And he's just like, yeah, I'm surprised to be seeing you, Natalie. And she's like showing off the scar from being beheaded by him. It's like, oh, look at what you gave me.
The next killing me. It's so funny. As the brothers building this IKEA coffin.
Yes! Literally just the dialogue. FaceTiming with his brothers. He's trying to build this coffin from IKEA, and he's like, I don't understand the instructions. Look, it's in a foreign language. And his brother's like, there's an English version. Yeah, this is the English version. That's the one I can't read. There's a lot of pictures, which is mostly good for me, but I don't get it.
Yeah, it was great.
And the genuine tension of him and Natalie getting into a fight while he's on FaceTime, and he's like, hang on, Natalie, I'll call you back when I got it, Bill. He just puts it down.
It was so good. It felt like a family affair.
Yeah.
It was good. I don't know, 4 stars for sure.
No, I feel like this really is really him nailing the horror comedy.
I agree. He's got it on lock. I can't wait to see what else he does.
Yeah, I said this. I would be curious to see him return to something more serious, like what he tried to do with Dead Meat. Now that he has the money, he can get good actors.
Right.
But it is a kind of a treat where you're watching this and you're seeing the same locations from Dead Meat.
Yeah, it has been a joy to watch his evolution and just see his strengths build.